Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Kwong Dang. You can, people just call me Q. And I will be the host today for today's webinar, The After-School Environment, Strategies to Improve Youth Health Outcomes. This is presented in partnership with the Network for a Healthy California. Before we begin, I wanted to talk to you about a little bit about Change Lab Solutions. We are located here in Oakland, California. We're a team of mostly lawyers and urban planners, and we work on legal and policy questions, policy language, and we work with community leaders to put their ideas to work in order to create healthier communities, especially underserved communities. The information that you will be hearing today from me and from the great speakers that we have on the after-school environment is not legal advice, nor is it lobbying or any other kind of lobbying information. It's being presented as analysis, study, and research, and does not reflect any views on any specific legislation that may be out there. So as I said before, we have some great speakers here today. I'll be your host today. We also have from the California After School Network, Bruno Marchesi. From the Healthy Behaviors Initiative, Dr. Andrea Fletcher. And from the Network for a Healthy California, we have Lloyd Nadal. Our agenda today is pretty simple. We've got an hour with you. We're going to go through a lot of great material about the after-school setting. I'm going to be doing a brief introduction, and then we're going to hear from Bruno and Dr. Fletcher about exemplary after-school practices. Lloyd will be talking to us about engaging youth, and then I'll talk about some of the policy systems and environmental options and issues that are related to working in the after-school setting. I wanted to start off today by just setting a little context for why the after-school setting is so important. We know that low-income communities are more at risk for obesity, poor access to healthy eating, and opportunities for safe physical activity, as well as food insecurity. These issues are complicated, and many policies in many different settings affect the options and choices that face these communities every day. Things that many of you may already work on, like food that students are served in school, as well as whether a family lives in a food desert, will play a role in the obesity epidemic. One area that is a promising place to address access to healthy eating, physical activity, and food insecurity is in after-school settings. The research shows us that in the United States, about 6.5 million children attend out-of-school time programs annually, and they participate in roughly 3 hours per day of activities, school and life-enhancing activities such as homework, snack, and what the scientists call gross motor play, but which most of us know as sports or just play. So during all this time, there's a lot of benefits that are available to children outside of school time in after-school programs. And a lot of programs, after-school programs, prioritize low-income communities because of the way public funding works. And what we also know is that all of this after-school programming and policies doesn't just help the students involved in the programs, but also the parents who are working, and in turn helps the economy. So with that brief introduction, I'd like to turn it over to Bruno Marchesi, the Program Director for the California After School Network, so that he can talk to us more about the great work that the network does. Bruno.
Thank you, Q. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me on the line. Like you mentioned, I'm from the California After School Network, and we are a statewide entity housed here at the School of Education at UC Davis. Our mission is to provide out-of-school time practitioners, advocates, and community members with the resources and tools necessary to build high-quality expanded learning programs in California. The way we do this is through committees, which you will see there on your screen, and these committees are made up of folks from the field, folks that currently work in after-school programs, practitioners, advocates, experts that come together for the passion that they have into improving the existing after-school programs so that we can have high-quality programs throughout the state. One that's very near and dear to my heart is the Nutrition and Physical Activity Committee, which meets on a quarterly basis. They're actually meeting right now as we speak. And what they do is they meet and they create tools, webinars, tip sheets, publications, conferences, videos, anything that we get feedback from the field that would be helpful to those practitioners who are currently at the site level, site coordinators, line staff, and those program managers who are working so hard in making high-quality after-school programs happen throughout the state. We create these publications and tools. We put them out there for free on our website or through conferences and convenings, and we continue to make more as the field decides that they need new materials. So that's a little bit about who we are. The reason why we do this is because California has made a huge investment in publicly funded after-school programs. We currently have more public-funded money allocated to after-school programs in California than all other states combined. This is a huge commitment by California, and that California has made to having more than 4,400 publicly funded programs serving more than 420,000 children and youth around the state. These programs that are publicly funded come from the ACES, which stands for the After School Education and Safety Grant, administered through the California Department of Education, and the 21st Century Community Learning Centers, which is federal dollars that also come through the California Department of Education. So we work in partnership with the California Department of Education to make sure that these programs have the support that they need to operate these programs. These programs run every day from Monday through Friday. They run for a minimum of 3 hours per day. Some of the high schools have more flexible hours, which they have to meet a minimum of 15 hours attending program, but most programs run as soon as school gets out in the afternoon to at least 6 o'clock with a minimum of at least 3 hours each and every day. Most of these programs do a lot in those 3 hours, including academic assistance, which could include homework help, but they also have to provide enrichment education for the students that they serve. They serve, high-need communities. One of the things that definitely is something that we think about often is that the high-need communities could include the students as well as the staff and the families of both. And 1 of 4 elementary and middle schools that have after-school programs also receive funding to run programs year-round, either before-school programs or programs while the children and youth are in intersession from their regular school day, as well as summer programming. Let me give you some of the statistics why I think there's a large need here with after-school programs. We have a publication that's published every year called The State of Expanded Learning in California, and this year's numbers really tell the story that on the first graph, for example, you would see that 97% of the schools receiving state and or federally funded after-school learning programs are in low-income communities. In this bar graph, schools with after-school programs have an average of 78% of their students eligible for free and reduced price school meals, and schools without expanded learning programs have 41% of their students eligible for free and reduced price meals. On the second graph here on your screen, you will see that expanded learning programs are present in 56% of the state's 7,200 or so elementary and middle schools. There are after-school programs in 79% of California's elementary and middle schools, where over 40% of the students are eligible for free or reduced lunch. And there are programs in 85% of California's lowest income elementary and middle schools, where over 50% of the students are eligible. This publication, our State of the State publication, is available online for free at the website link listed there on the screen. So the question always comes to why work with after-school or summer programs, and the answer really is simple. It comes down to flexibility. As we work more closely with schools and align the after-school programs and expanded learning programs with the school day, we know that the school day has really been impacted, where they don't really have the time to teach a lot of other areas other than language arts and mathematics. And so after-school programs really have the flexibility to address the NEOP priority areas really in a way that's already being done in these after-school programs that currently serve children and youth. But I think that we can do more. So like I mentioned earlier, these programs have to offer enrichment opportunities in addition to the academics. The enrichment opportunities could include nutrition education, healthy cooking classes, gardening, and physical activity. And what we're seeing out there is that these programs are already purchasing curriculum, they're doing activities, they're doing nutrition education with their students because they understand the impact of the childhood obesity epidemic. So there are a lot of vendors, a lot of curriculum that have made curricula available to these after-school programs specifically designed for after-school programs in a way that is disguised learning, that it is fun, that it doesn't look like what's happening during the school day. So it's just a new way of presenting information to the children and youth that we serve. Another opportunity is that all of these programs that are publicly funded must provide a healthy snack. And now with the CACFP after-school meal program being available, a lot of our programs are now either choosing to serve the meal program or are also continuing to serve the snack while they're adding the meal program to it. So we're seeing a lot of opportunities there. We currently in California are serving close to about 3 million meals per month in our after-school programs. So that's really a good opportunity to do activities with the students about food labels, to talk about nutrition, and this is happening every single day. Our children and youth go to programs. And, you know, the one thing that we always stress with our after-school programs is that everything that we do in the after-school time has to complement what's happening in the school day. So all of these things that the children and youth are exposed to, the activities and nutrition education and everything else, can complement and influence the school day. And what we're seeing here, some examples are our after-school programs and activities where it's spilling over to the school day, where if the 6th grade teacher wanted to sell candy to raise funds for their field trip, our students that are learning about nutrition education have a conversation with that teacher about what they're learning in the after-school day and, maybe some alternatives about what they can do for their fundraising activities during the school day as well. The thing about after-school programs is it just provides a lot of opportunities to have places of learning. Right now, something that's very big in California after school is the idea of the learning in after school in summer principles. And all this means is that we view learning as being active, collaborative, meaningful, learning that supports mastery and expands horizons. The California Department of Education is really making huge strides into making this part of all after-school programs that are publicly funded in California Just this year, they convened folks from the field to develop recommendations about quality programming, and that the California Department of Education is going to be doing some further work in developing, but the learning and after school and summer principles is something that's here to stay in these publicly funded programs. So again, learning that is active, collaborative, meaningful, supports mastery, and expands horizon is something that all of our after-school programs are striving to do. You know, one thing about after-school programs is that students can become advocates. The students that we serve are the ones that go back to the regular classroom and say, this is what I did in my after-school program yesterday. They're the ones that go home to their families, to their parents or cousins or siblings, and they're bringing those materials. They're bringing those lessons learned. They're advocating for these programs that they really like. And, you know, the data really shows that those students who are in our after-school programs really have improved attendance on a regular school day because you can only participate in the after-school programs if you attended the regular school day. So we're seeing an increase in attendance as well for the regular school day. Our programs, and we have many, many programs out there that already work well with community partners. For the ACES, that After School Education and Safety Grant, there is a 1/3 match for the grants that they receive from the state. So they are already accustomed to working with community partners, leveraging their funds, and making sure that their programs are supported by their community as well. So our Nutrition and Physical Activity Committee has developed some tools to help people connect with after-school programs already, which are available on that particular link there on your screen. 3 things that I will talk a little bit about today are the regional lead system. We have created a database, and we have created tools that are already available to programs. So let me start there. In this website here that you see, which is from the link, the NEOPS link on the previous slide, the 3 things that I want to highlight is we have developed a database that is searchable by site, by city, by county, zip code, school district, and sponsor name, so that you can see all of the sites that are currently serving the meal program. We also have a database that's available so that you can see all of the publicly funded programs throughout California as well, which is searchable in the same manner as this one is. So to find programs, it is really easy. The one thing to take into account is that out of 4,400 programs, some of the programs are being administered through the school district, but some of the other programs are done by large organizations such as Think Together, who operates more than 400 sites, or LA's Best, which has about 189 programs. But there are also a lot of other community-based organizations that have programs between 50 and 60 sites at a particular community. So it's not just through the school districts, but also community-based organizations that are running these programs. And all of that is searchable here in this database, available on that page. The second resource that I think would be very helpful to connect to programs would be the regional lead system that's available here in California. California after-school programs are broken down into 11 regions of technical assistance support. And so there are 11 regional leads throughout the state. And the link that you see there where that California map is on your screen, you will be able to find out more information about what the regional lead system is, which runs to the county, to the local county departments of education at the local level, and you can connect with the regional leads. Their phone number and email address is there. You can call them, you can email them, and they have all the information about who the local programs are, who the providers are, the contact information, and they are certainly definitely willing to help to connect you with the after-school programs within the region. Just as an example, Region 11, which is LA County, has more than 1,800 publicly funded programs. So connecting with Mary Jo Ginty, the regional lead for Region 11, would just make it so much easier to connect with all those wonderful programs in the LA area. The third and final resource that I will touch on today is those tools and resources that you see there on your screen. They were developed last year by our Nutrition and Physical Activity Committee through funding from the California Department of Public Health. And we developed tip sheets and talking points for programs to be able to incorporate nutrition and physical activity to their after-school programs. Well, the reach here, where I think this is our website is very helpful, we were able to distribute more than 96,000 hard copies of these tools and resources in just about a month's time last year in September. So we have a large reach at the California After-School Network in being able to connect to programs and put these 96,000 tools and resources in the hands of the after-school practitioners, the students that they serve, and also their families. So definitely, if you want to connect with after-school programs in California, really there's a lot of ways that you can do that. One is visiting this website here, which will give you that wonderful database where you can search yourself for who these after-school programs are. The regional lead system, which can connect you to those local programs in any of those counties or cities that you're looking for, as well as to the California After-School Network, which has a huge reach of participants in the committees, as well as folks in our listserv throughout the state, as well as all the partners that we have that come together to create high-quality after-school programs throughout California. So with that, just wanted to see, I know that there's a lot of questions that have come in. I know that Q is doing a good job at getting those questions from the chat box from you. Q, is there any particular questions that jumped out that you would like me to answer?
Sure. Thanks, Bruno. The one question that comes up, it's a really interesting question. We're going to talk about this a little bit later too, but the question is, how are you handling the sale of unhealthy snacks sold to children during these programs? And this is referring to unhealthy snacks that might be sold separate from the school program snacks themselves. And these might be things that are being used as fundraisers for the program and or for the school.
That's a great question, and I believe that's something that definitely Dr. Andrea Fletcher is going to speak about as well. But we are definitely always informing after-school programs on how to connect with the regular school day. That's really one of our challenges in after school, as well as one of our opportunities, to reach out a little bit more to the regular school day and work in partnership so that we can have a unified message about what's being sold for these fundraisers. So one of the strategies that's being used is connecting the after-school either site coordinator or designee of the after-school program to the wellness councils that the schools have. Also, we are always advocating for site coordinators to be able to connect with the school principal so that they are able to attend the monthly school meetings from the regular school day so that they know all of the information when the teachers are receiving it, as well as being able to provide input to what's happening. Communication between the site coordinator and the school principal is always key in any partnership where folks are sharing the same school space. And also really just working with the children and youth in our programs in letting them know that, yes, even though, something is, selling for a fundraiser opportunity, that the after-school program developed clear guidelines and policies about what's acceptable within the after-school program itself. So a lot of our programs are even working with parents about, if the parent is going to send snacks and or additional food with the children and youth for the afternoon, of what those can be so that we make sure that those continue to be healthy.
Great, great. Thank you, Bruno. I think that's fantastic. I love how you connect what the program guidelines are with policies in either the wellness policies or other school policies that can actually change what the food options are in the environment. The other question that I want to make sure that we get to is one that often comes up. I know you've been getting chat comment reminders about this, but today's slides and the presentations and the resources are going to be available within 2 days. Within 2 days of this webinar, you'll be getting an email with all those things. So don't worry about getting all the information off the slides. Those will all be provided to you. I want to move on so that we have some time, but I wanted to thank Bruno for his presentation. I think that in presenting the resources and the insights and the experience that you've had from your leadership in this area, I think that the key message is that learning and connecting are such important parts of this, and those are things that the network is so good at providing to folks out there who want to work to change the after-school environment. I'd like to move on and introduce our next speaker, Dr. Andrea Fletcher, who's the Chief After-School Consultant with Healthy Behaviors Initiative at the Center for Collaborative Futures.
Good morning, Hugh. Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for including me in this. I really appreciate it. It's such an important issue, and I think that we have seen more and more, as Bruno pointed out, that after-school programs really can be incredible platforms for reaching children and young people and their families and really making a difference. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about the initiative, the Healthy Behaviors Initiative. We began to develop it in 2004. It was led by the Center for Collaborative Solutions and supported by the Network for Healthy California, the California Endowment, the David and Lucille Packard Foundation, and others. And we really focused on trying to find out whether state and federally funded programs like the ones that Bruno has talked about really could be a primary vehicle for not only improving the health and well-being of students and their families, but for combating the childhood obesity crisis. And we've done this in a number of ways, the most important of which really has been that we developed 6 what we consider to be exemplary practices. And these are really ways of doing things that will enable programs to relatively easily, in their own different environments, change the eating habits of kids, really improve their physical activity levels, and strengthen the food security of their families. We vetted and field tested these practices over the last several years. We've led learning communities throughout California and trained and coached hundreds of program directors and leadership team members and staff members and community partners to help them learn how to embed the practices in their work. And we've established 26 learning centers in inner cities, metropolitan areas, and rural communities throughout the state. We know at this point in time that we've made a lot of progress by all of us working together, and that this initiative has already impacted the lives of literally hundreds of thousands of students and their families. And we also know that it has incredible potential if we continue to move in this direction to make an even bigger difference. So we're excited about what's happening, and we think that that really can make a huge difference. Oops, sorry. Sorry about that. If somebody can help me go back to the previous slide, it would be great. The way that we have approached our work is to build on the socio-ecological model, and I think many of you, if not all, are familiar with this. And the idea is really to embed the practices into daily activities and approaches by engaging leadership teams and staff members as partners, developing all the principles and practices of youth development that we can, ensuring that activities are exciting, engaging, and meaningful, and then working on other things specifically to make a difference. And the reason really that we've used the socio-ecological model is that we really believe that for meaningful changes in children to occur, three things have to happen. And I think that this was touched on a little bit before by Bruno and by Q, and I think it matters a lot. The first is that these kids are really vulnerable, and they have to be able to overcome the challenges of living in low-income families with limited access to healthy foods or safe places to exercise. And they have to have really a lot more opportunities to make life-enhancing choices. The second thing is they've got to be motivated and willing to change. There is so much pressure for them to eat a lot of things and drink a lot of drinks that are unhealthy. It's very tough. Most of them, without being in the programs, would live very sedentary lifestyles, spending an awful lot of time in front of television or playing videos or whatever. So they have to be willing to change. And they have to be, and I think this is probably most important, they have to be surrounded with positive influences that support their efforts. And if we can do these things, and we have proven in many, many cases in the after-school environment that we can, then we really do see exciting changes occurring. So I just want to run through fairly briefly what these practices are. We know that the first practice, which is really about programs and staff becoming more intentional, is critical. That people really have to understand that the health and well-being of kids is an absolute paramount responsibility and opportunity that after-school programs should, and in so many more cases now, are seizing. That it's not enough to just help them with homework, help them by providing enrichment opportunities and so on, and keeping them in a safe place. It really is an opportunity to improve their health. And if by what we have been able to do and working in this area, we've really gotten programs to start looking at what their vision is of what could be, and to get the staff to really be inspired about the possibilities and make this vision come alive. I want to give you just a quick example of one of the visions. They're simple, they're straightforward, and I think they're powerful. It's a vision of a World Fit for Kids in one of our learning centers in LA. And that vision is of all kids being healthy, fit, and ready to learn. And the staff really has embraced this, or some variation of it, across a lot of sites. And the consequence is that we see incredible changes in the staff themselves. And since most of these people work in the neighborhoods where the sites are located, we have to have that in order to have positive role models. I can give you example upon example, though I'll only give you one, of many, many staff who start out being very, very overweight or obese themselves. And once they become involved in this process and they commit to becoming role models, they have really reached their desired weights. Many of them have had type 2 diabetes themselves, have gone from 9 or 10 pills a day down to 1 or 2 or almost none. When they used to drink a lot of soft drinks during the day, they now drink water in its place. So this has to happen, and it does happen when programs really begin to see how critical this is for themselves and for the students with whom they work. So as the intentionality builds, a lot of other things begin to change as well, the most important of which is the culture. Because as the culture changes, it makes it possible to implement policies that promote healthy habits and to see that staff will support these policies, and then in turn that the children and their families support them too. The emphasis that we have placed, and I think this is true of all good after-school programs, on strengthening youth development has been a critical piece too, because we know that this has to be a top priority in programs, and we know that it means that students have to feel physically and emotionally safe, that they have to have positive, supportive relationships with their staff and with their peers. They have to have ongoing opportunities to learn and to master new skills, and they have to be able to become leaders and advocates for what they care about. I think ultimately what we've seen is that this has meant that they have to see that the benefits, there really are benefits of what they're doing in ways that are meaningful and relevant to their own lives, and that their own health and taking responsibility for that and becoming more physically fit and changing their eating habits is a critical part of that. What we've seen as a result of this work in this area is that programs have really become less adult-driven and more student-centered. They really shifted their focus from activities to outcomes, and the result has been that students are applying the knowledge and the skills and the motivation they need to make better decisions, solve problems more effectively, and set and achieve meaningful goals for themselves and for each other and to support each other in the process. We also, of course, know that we have to provide opportunities for kids that are engaging and exciting and meaningful to them, but we have to be sure that it's really about them, that they are having fun, that they are learning things, and that they are embracing new attitudes and patterns of behavior that really make a difference. We know that this happens when students have a voice in determining what kinds of activities are offered and when they can provide feedback about what's working and what's not. We know that project-based learning works a lot better than other kinds of independent activities, and so these programs pretty consistently have, for example, 6-week courses in cooking, gardening, dance, sports, all kinds of things. Yoga, I've seen wonderful examples of yoga classes even among the kindergartners, and they're wonderful to watch doing it, and they're very knowledgeable and very, very successful at it. But the whole idea is to provide them with opportunities that they are interested in so that they can develop new skills, expand their knowledge, and put into practice what they learn in ways that make a difference in their own lives. And, of course, this also means providing opportunities for them that may not be available because of the expense that so many of these have. And their parents just simply can't afford it. So this has been a huge part of what's made a difference so far, that the engaging activities are really, really valuable. We also, of course, know that it is critically important to build positive connections with schools and with families and communities. And you've got to do this if you want a good program, an outstanding program anyway. But we really know that it's just so critical that resources are shared, space is shared, policies are shared, and wellness policies were brought up a few minutes ago. And I just want to say that the after-school programs that we've worked with have really been a driving force in getting wellness policies implemented. And let me give you an example of how far that's gone. That one of the site directors at one of our learning centers not only served on the wellness committee, but she was appointed to be the chair of the wellness committee at that site by her principal. And since she's a noon duty during the school day, this is a very unusual thing to happen, and I think a really, really important one. We also, now have gardens at every one of the learning centers, and more we see this across lots of after-school programs in the state, that the campuses are really filled with positive messages to kids through posters and murals, that really help them and remind them to really embrace healthier eating habits and become more physically active. We also know that beyond relationships with the schools, we've got to have positive relationships with families and engage them, and we're seeing some very, very good things happening in this area through after-school programs. Excuse me. One of which is that a lot of the recipes that kids do in cooking classes are sent home, and they are being used by families. That nutrition classes are being offered to parents. There's a lot of family nights, a lot of health fairs, a lot of weekend outings, so it's not just during the week or during the program, where families are included in things like hiking and bicycling events and then attending sports events free of charge, including families as much as we possibly can. And it does seem to make a big difference. We also do our best at these sites, and the sites are doing a good job at making a lot of information about SNAP-Ed and WIC and other community services readily available to them. And this has really strengthened their own capacity to get the resources, access the resources they need. We also know that we have to build relationships and help programs build relationships with communities. This happens in a lot of ways. I think one of the most outstanding is that most of these programs have now brought in and annually do bring in thousands of tons of fresh fruits and vegetables, and that provides additional healthy food for kids during the program. It enables them on every Friday, for the most part, to be able to send bags of fresh fruits and vegetables home to the families for the weekends. It really makes a big difference. It provides stuff for cooking classes and so on and so forth. We also work with communities, of course, to develop all kinds of partnerships with food banks, food pantries, farmers markets, supermarkets, and so on and so forth, and with lots of existing local and county organizations and agencies that are making a difference. We also have focused a great deal on food security, and I think that's part of what I just said in terms of bringing in resources from the community. It's made a huge, huge difference. A lot of other things happen as well, like providing coupons free of charge to restaurants that are healthy, getting kids to be more interested in that, using those as incentives, for example, rather than the kinds of things like unhealthy foods, which very commonly are used as incentives. And we have health programs, which is the sixth practice, secure sustainable funding. I think not only is this a big issue in terms of funders and interest in, certainly in California and in our country, to do what we can to improve children's health and well-being and reduce or change the childhood obesity crisis issue. But we also know that these programs have become really, really good at what they do, and they are really able to secure lots of additional funding. Just as a quick example, over the last 5 years, the 26 learning centers in combination have secured more than $20 million in additional public and private funding to what has already come in through state and federal funding just to operate their programs. So they've really been very, very good and very successful at being able to become sustainable. I think it's critically important to really focus on what works, and I'm going to do this fairly briefly, but this is what we know, and this is what everybody needs help with in providing support to after-school programs. We've got to really support students with positive influences, and this means not just the programs doing it, but everybody else who's engaged in the community and locally in the neighborhoods to work with schools to implement health-enhancing policies and practices. That means helping staff and supporting them and working with schools and with families and with vendors, local vendors, and so on, to really be sure that there aren't unhealthy foods and drinks on campus. To provide additional training and support and additional materials and curricula so that the best things continually are used, to provide opportunities for them to do things on-site and off-site. It all matters, and the more resources they can get, the better things will be. We know that we've got to engage families as partners in making healthy choices, and as I mentioned a little bit earlier, most of these programs have very large health fairs annually or semi-annually, where there are thousands of community members that participate and organizations that come in to provide resources of all sorts. Another area where a lot of help is needed to provide support for the programs. And part of that, again, is about connecting with all of the community organizations that work in these areas to provide additional resources and support. The picture that's on your screen, I just want to point out for a second, that's a snack shack. And these are now at so many programs throughout the state, and certainly all of the learning centers. And what it basically is that the kids who are in cooking classes during the day then prepare samples of those things that they have cooked, and they hand them out to kids when the kids are picked up by the parents at the end of the day so that they can taste them and sample them. And then they send the ingredients home with families so that they can really use these right away and start thinking more about healthy snacks. So it's really had a huge, huge impact. And I think it's working very effectively, and it's a great practice.
Andy, that's great. In the interest of time, I need to skip you ahead to, can you talk about some of the resources that are available from the initiative?
Sure. We have, I think, of the resources that end up being probably the most significant in terms of learning how to do this, the most important resource probably is a guide to developing exemplary practices. The guide is called Changing Lives, Saving Lives. And this can be accessed on the After School Solutions website, just afterschoolsolutions.org. It's a free download, and it really shows how this process occurs and how everybody can work together to make this happen. We also have case studies of this, and I think perhaps most importantly is being able to go visit a learning center. And they're located throughout the state, and if you haven't already been able to visit one, I would strongly recommend that you do. And they're listed again on the afterschoolsolutions.org website.
Great, great. Thank you very much, Andy, for all that great information about this initiative and the work that you've done. The resource is really amazing, and everyone will have access to that and get to see what these 7 steps are, as well as learning what's worked before from those case studies and also how to move forward with this work. Next, I'd like to introduce Lloyd Nadal, who's going to talk about a really important topic, because we've heard a lot about the importance of youth development and youth involvement, and he's going to talk about inspiring youth as partners.
Great. Thanks, Q. Thank you for having me here on the call. I just want to say thank you also to Andy and Bruno for coming on. If you all don't know, Bruno and Andy are actually 2 really go-to people around after school in the state, so I very much encourage you all to touch base with them and the organizations after this call, especially if you have questions about after school. So I promise to be quick. I hope everyone's doing well and hanging in there with us. Hope the weather is beautiful where you're at. I'm going to focus my talk on 3 things today. The first is I'm going to talk about our children and youth programs, which actually involves the support of after school. I'm also going to talk about our future vision for where we want to go here at the network with youth engagement. And then finally, to mention some resources and support around youth engagement that we want to provide for you. So just a little bit of background on me. And in the interest of time, I used to work with an organization called CanFit for the past 6 years, providing after-school program and policy support and around youth engagement as well for several obesity prevention initiatives that not only involve policy but also in engaging young people. So I'm very familiar with working with youth and doing a lot of policy work, which with PS&Es is sort of the direction that we're going. And I've also served on several statewide committees currently, which include the Action for Healthy Kids Steering Committee, the Local School Wellness Policy Statewide Collaborative, and the Team California for Healthy After School initiative. So I've been trying to keep my finger on the pulse with what's happening with youth and in California, and I hope to bring that sort of experience here with the network. I'm really excited what we're doing here at the network and where we're hoping to go, and want to share with you this slide here that shows sort of how we've been engaging youth at the network in the past. And so we basically focused mostly on our Harvest of the Month, which has been one of our most successful programs, mostly with engaging elementary school age youth, and then our Power Play, which is mostly focused on our 4th and 5th graders, and then finally our Youth Engagement Initiative, which has been going on for the past 7 years, engaging our 12 to 18-year-olds. Right now, with our children and youth programs, we now have currently 4 full-time staff supporting youth of all age groups in youth engagement, school, and after-school PS&E work. So we're hoping, in coordination with your PMs, that we can have this support team that can really help you gain the goals and outcomes that you're looking for with the PS&E work. We're also trying to make sure that we have Power Play network-approved curricula at all age groups for you that are engaged in school, after school, CBOs, and also in the future we hope to align with our Common Core standards. So this is a busy slide that you see, but this is basically sort of a draft vision, hopefully a shared vision that we're collectively thinking about together, that we want to try to, this is sort of the direction where we're hoping to go with the network. I know there's a lot going on, but just to kind of go through it briefly. So basically we've been doing a lot of work with our nutrition education and health education, what we've been doing now, mostly with Harvest of the Month, with Rethink Your Drink and Power Play. And we're hoping that at some point, with Rethink Your Drink, there's actually going to be some high school lessons as well. We're hoping that as youth kind of go through this sort of healthy youth continuum, they're going to go into our Youth Engagement Initiative, which is what we're calling their community engagement. And this is where they will start to learn a little bit more about what's happening with the PS&Es, shifting to more of an environmental frame. And then finally, in our sort of youth continuum, what we're also calling leadership, there'll be some opportunities for peer-to-peer where young people can then teach back to younger youth, where they'll have an opportunity to kind of get into potential career paths so that we're developing the next round of young people that could be in careers such as the public health field, RDs, farmers, physical activity folks. So we're actually having young people actually move through this continuum in a way that is supporting them from childhood to adulthood. So it's sort of in a passive fashion, because right now currently we have a Harvest of the Month and we have Power Play, and after 5th grade, we sort of hope that young people will then get into something around health in middle school and high school. And so from the network standpoint, we want to make sure that there's curricula, there's programs, there's support around health for all age levels, and also that there's a way to sort of encourage young people to then get into some careers that could potentially be sort of replacing our jobs, so to speak. We're also hoping that this vision, we could start teaching our young people around sort of the environmental and the PS&E message as early as 4th and 5th grade, so through Photo Voice and some other curricula, and hopefully in combination with our Common Core standards, that there's a way to sort of start developing some dialogue that young people can start to understand that, it's more than an individual issue, that there's other issues that are affecting their health, like food access and some of the issues that we're all going to be working on together. And finally, there has to be a way that this is going to be a shared vision that you all that are working locally can sort of work together to find these partners that can actually make this continuum reality. So we know that some folks might be already doing this, and so how do you find partners that are already connecting to career pathways, that maybe already are doing stuff in schools and after-school programs? How can we create this vision so that we are making sure that young people have a sort of healthy lifestyle from start to adulthood? So I have a few minutes more, and I'm just going to sort of transition quickly to our next slide to kind of talk a little bit about our Youth Engagement Initiative. And for over the past 7 years, like I've said, we've done a lot of youth work, focusing mostly on the ages of 12 to 18. We started with 7 pilot sites. Now we're doing 43. We've done 43 sites with 363 youth researchers in 2013. So we've grown quite a bit. We look forward to working on our youth engagement initiative with you all this year. I think we had about 21 local health departments that were interested in working with us on it. We have a team of folks here that are eager and willing and ready to support you all the way through. And a lot of our focus of youth engagement is really on our YPAR methodology or framework, which stands for Youth Participatory Action Research, which is our way of making sure that we're engaging youth authentically and in a way that makes sure that youth are involved from the start. And we can definitely provide support on this YPAR framework through our team in the future. So if you go to the next slide, it just shows sort of a map of like what we've been doing in California, and then in the next slide we see sort of how we vision our levels of youth participation. This is Harts Ladder, if you folks aren't familiar with, and basically we want to make sure when we're working with young people that we start at least at rung 4, which is that young people are assigned and informed, and above that. We want to make sure that we're not below the rung, and again, our team of youth engagement specialists here are really here to help you make sure that we're doing that work authentically. So just kind of in closing here, why youth-led? Why focus on youth-led? We've seen a lot of success in our YPAR work through these partnerships, these authentic partnerships within youth and adults. And so most of the successes come when we have youth and adults working together. Youth know youth are, having peer-to-peer opportunities where youth can actually communicate with each other, we know is always going to be more successful. And then youth are just, they're ready for leadership roles and incredible, powerful spokespeople. This quote that really grabs me a lot that I like to share is that, those who are greatly affected by it have the greatest ability to change it. And so we firmly believe that with those that are going through understanding their environments, really trying to make change, have the strongest voices in this work, those meaning community folks and young people. Next one, please. And so the support that we can offer here again, along with the support that you'll be getting from your PMs, is training and technical assistance around school, after school, PS&E work, around youth engagement and water park projects. We want to make sure, like, are your districts using their school wellness policy? Are youth involved in that? How is it being implemented? How do you create a sustainable youth structure in a school, after-school community environment? Given academics and attendance are always the priority, so really trying to address the reality that's happening in a lot of our communities. How do we ensure that young people are having their needs met? How do we train adult staff on how to message our PS&E work? And we're doing some trainings with BMSG that I hope a lot of you are familiar with that are going to be upcoming, so look out for those. And then finally, like our messaging and communication strategies, I just want to reiterate that it's so important to make sure that our we're engaging youth in a sort of way that where we understand their communication in today's world in a social context. Everything that needs to be quick, simple, real, persuasive, 30 seconds or less, usually authentic and real, that we're inspiring and motivating them, that has universal appeal, and most importantly, that we're meeting youth where they are, that we're going beyond just sort of their socioeconomic status, their ethnic background, that we're really understanding their needs, understanding their worldview in order to engage them in a way that can really compete with a lot of the airtime and other things that they're into these days. An example of that is an average teen sends about 50 texts a day now. 1 in 3 send 100 texts. 87% of young people sleep by the phone to text all night long. So just a couple stats to let you know of how important it is to really understand that we need to get creative of how to engage young people in a way that's going to be effective. Finally, we're going to be having forums and trainings so that youth can learn from each other, hopefully connect with each other, and also hopefully trying to connect with what's happening across the state and maybe even potentially what's going on across the country. I'm very aware of what's happening with a lot of other youth initiatives, including Building Healthy Communities and Kaiser's Healthy Schools initiative. So hopefully there's a way that we can be a part of the conversation with young people sort of as leaders in the work. The last couple slides, just some resources that you can download from the slides, and then just as my contact information, please contact me at any time. We have, again, a team of 4 that can, if not me right away, we'll get back to you ASAP. And just want to leave with sharing with you that in all the work that I've done, especially with working with communities, we have to make sure also that this work is fun, that the success that I've seen in a lot of these areas have always involved some sort of camaraderie of adults and youth where the spirit was high, that people were sort of engaging each other, learning from each other. So I strongly, fun almost as a strategy, that we think about that when we're doing this work moving forward. It's going to be a long road, and I definitely think that it's should be a main component of what we do. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much, Lloyd, and thanks to all of our speakers. I have a couple of minutes left, and I just want to very quickly run through some of the policy issues that you guys should be flagging and reaching out to us and other folks for, and the resources that you can look to. People have talked a lot today about after-school programs and youth engagement and making the environment healthier. And the connection between all of that and policy systems and environment is in the standards. And that was implicit in what a lot of the speakers today were talking about. Oh, we're going to have healthy food, we're going to have physical activity. Well, what standards are you talking about? You can find those in a number of different places. The California After School Network has standards, as well as the National Institute on Out-of-School Time has really good standards that you can look to build those kinds of policies. Building on that is the idea of healthy vending and procurement. Here, if your program says, oh, we're going to have healthy snacks, you can make that policy stronger by having healthy vending and procurement policies that actually make it an institutional policy to purchase healthier snacks. We have resources available to help you with that on our website, and so when you get the email with the download, please check out these materials and see how you can use those kinds of policies. The other side of making things healthier is, remember, increasing access to water is a really important policy that can be worked into policy language for wellness policies. I think a great point that Bruno made a couple of times was the importance of connecting your after-school coordinator with your wellness policy coordinators. There are some great opportunities coming up this year with the rules that are expected to come out on wellness policies on how you can involve the community and families and parents more in not just the development of wellness policies, but the evaluation and assessment of them. So if you're going to do that, like Bruno says, let's make sure that the after-school coordinator is included in the wellness committee or connect them in some way. And then a couple of other strategies that we're not going to have time to talk about today are joint use agreements, which are, if we're talking about the importance of after school and connecting it with the school policy and also creating these communities of learning and places of learning, joint use agreements are a great way to do that. When you get the email, again, check our resources on the joint use toolkit that we have available. And then also a brief reminder that there are other things outside the school setting that also affect children and students' food choices. And so if you're working to improve healthy food access in the community, you're also helping the after-school options that kids have. This example that you can look up is the Market Makeovers, and this was a youth engaged program that made over that helped make over 3 health corner stores in South LA. There are a number of other resources from the network as well as from the Healthy Behaviors Initiative and from the network that are all highlighted in the email link that you'll be getting out. And I encourage you to check out these resources and also contact your program manager if you have any further questions. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for your participation today.